In the 1500s, Spain ruled the largest empire the world had ever seen. Gold and silver poured into its treasury from the Americas. Spanish ships dominated the oceans, and its king ruled lands on 4 continents. But just a few centuries later, that empire was gone. So what happened? How did the Richest collapse been caused by a single war or invasion? It was the result of 5 devastating mistakes. In this video, we're going to break down exactly how the Spanish Empire collapsed, step by step, from its explosive rise in the 1500s to the economic disasters, military defeats, and independence movements that destroyed. Spain's rise began with a discovery that changed the global economy. In the 1500s, Spanish explorers conquered vast territories in the Americas, including those land-day massive silver mines. The most famous was Potosi, located in present-day Bolivia. It became one of the richest mines in human history. Every year, enormous fleets carried silver and gold across the Atlantic back to Spain. At first, this made Spain incredibly wealthy. But it also created a hidden problem. Because when too much money enters an economy, prices rise. This phenomenon is known as inflation. And Spain experienced one of the worst inflation crises in European history. Instead of investing in industry or manufacturing, Spain relied almost entirely on treasure from the Americas. When the silver slowed, the economy had nothing else to rely on. The empire had built its wealth on a fragile foundation. Spain didn't just have wealth, it also had ambition. Throughout the 1500s and 1600s, Spain battled the wars across Europe. It battled the Ottoman conflict, England and 15 conference. Spain launched a massive fleet called the Spanish Armada to invade England. The plan seemed unstoppable. Over 130 ships sailed toward English shores, but disaster struck. Storms and English naval attacks shattered the fleet. The Spanish Armada was destroyed. This defeat marked the beginning of Spain's naval decline, and the wars didn't stop. Over time, these constant conflicts Spain's treasury. The empire was spending more money than it could earn. While Spain struggled in Europe, trouble was growing across the Atlantic. Spain controlled enormous territories in the Americas, but the people living there were becoming restless. Many colonies were ruled by officials sent directly from Spain. Local populations had little political power. By the early 1800s, revolutionary ideas were spreading across the world. The American Revolution had succeeded. The French Revolution had toppled a monarchy. And leaders in Latin America began asking the same question. Why should we be rebels? He helped lead Simón Bolívar's across South America. And leaders in Latin America began asking the same question. Why should we be rebels? He helped lead Simón Bolívar's across South America. But here's the most surprising part of the story. Even after losing most of its colonies, Spain, Cuba, Puerto and territory to the Philippines, including to come from a new rising power, the United States. By the late 1800s, Spain's empire had already shrunk dramatically, but it still controlled several valuable colonies. One of them was Cuba. In 1898, tensions between Spain and the United States escalated. After the explosion of the American battleship USS Maine in Havana Harbor, the United States declared war. The conflict lasted only a few, but Mamero was devastating for in both the Caribbean and the Pacific. By the end of the war, Spain lost Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. This defeat effectively ended Spain's role as a global imperial power. After the Spanish-American War, Spain was no longer one of the world's great powers. The empire that once controlled vast lands across the globe had been reduced to its 1800s. Spain held only a few minor overseas territories. The age of the Spanish Empire had officially ended. What had once been the richest empire in the world had collapsed, not because of centuries of economic mistakes, military defeats, and rising independence movements. The collapse of the Spanish Empire teaches an important lesson. Even the most powerful empires can fall when they rely too heavily on wealth without building sustainable systems. History is full of powerful civilizations that seemed unstoppable until suddenly they weren't. And sometimes the warning signs only become obvious in how history and geopolitics. Subscribe to Civilization TV. We post new videos every Tuesday and Friday explaining the real stories behind the events that shaped our world. And tell me in the comments, which empire do you think was the most powerful in history? I'd love to hear your thoughts.